let's get started then. Okay, so if you notice, I'm going to take this out so I don't wrestle with it. We are now changing the way our little template looks. We have H and K. H and K came back. So remember, what is in parentheses is always opposite. And then your K value we take for whatever sign it is. Remember yesterday we talked about the A. It's still a stretch or a shrink, but don't forget it's called an amplitude. And don't forget it's always positive. And a negative A just means it's been vertically reflected upside down. B is still going to be the number of cycles from 0 to 2 pi. H is a horizontal shift for sure, but when it talks about waves, it's called a phase shift. So when you see the word phase shift, and you will on your quiz next week, it's the same thing as a horizontal slide, y'all. That's all that is. Your vertical shift is up or down, but something that I'm going to write right here is it's the midline. It's the middle, and that's not written on here, so make sure you know that. It's the middle of the graph, the middle of the waves, middle. All right, and then remember one more time, we don't divide, we multiply by the reciprocal. We don't divide, we multiply by the reciprocal. All right, let's go ahead and get started with some horizontal and vertical translations here. So determine the amplitude, period, phase shift, vertical shift for the following trig functions, and sketch the graph of each function for one period. The good news is the steps are the same as yesterday. So remember, we're going to sketch the shape and write where it starts. Then we're going to deal with the amplitude and the K value. The K value is going to be important because remember it's the middle. And then we're going to find our period. Then we're going to find our increments. And then we're going to graph it. All right. So here we go. I'm just going to keep making sure you guys can see this stuff. All right, now remember the two right after the equal sign is the A value. Yes. A and K. I'm sorry. This one? Yeah. That says A and K. Okay. Sorry. A and K. All right, so let's go ahead and analyze what this is. Remember, right after the equal sign is the A value. Somebody already factored out the B value. It's separate from the X. It has to be separate from the X. So that's the B. Here's your H, and here's your K. Actually, that's opposite H. Right, so let's think about the shape. The shape is cosine. Y'all remember cosine starts at the top, makes a little valley and stays at the top. All right, now look, where does cosine start? At the top, watch. This is going to be H value, negative pi over 8. That's where it starts. And then I'm going to leave a blank right here. I'm going to come back to that in a moment. Let's talk about our amplitude. So remember, your amplitude is the number in front, and the K is the middle, and it's at a 3. Let's go ahead and think about this. Let's go ahead and draw a dashed line at the positive 3. I'm going to say 3 is like right here. So this is the middle. This is the horizontal shift 3 places up. Now remember, if we have an amplitude of 2, that's 2 places up, 2 places down. So the highest this wave is ever going to get is going to be a 5, 3 plus 2. The lowest this wave is ever going to get is a 1. And remember, cosine starts at the top. So this cosine is going to start at negative pi over 8 and then 5. That's where it starts. All right, let's go ahead and deal with our x-axis. In order for us to look at our x-axis, we need to know our period. So it's going to be 2 pi times the reciprocal of b, which is 1/2. So our period is pi. Let's go ahead and multiply that by fourths. That's going to be our increments. By the way, we're going to need 5 tick marks on the x-axis. All right, so here's why you really need to bring your everything you know about fractions. Look, this is where it starts. That's where I'm going to put the first tick mark on the x-axis. But the rest of them increase by that. Those aren't even the same denominators, and I need the same denominator to figure out how to add to go across. So listen, you can never go down. So this pi over 8, I cannot write it as a fourth. But I can write a fourth as an eighth. Remember, a fourth as an eighth is 2 pi over 8. So I'm going to kind of keep this in my head as I move along the x-axis and create my tick marks. Remember, how many tick marks did we need? We needed 5. My first tick mark is going to be at negative pi over 8, which is going to be right here-ish. Negative pi over 8 plus 2 pi over 8 is positive pi over 8. That's the next one. And then before I continue, a little OCD. I just want to try to do the best I can to make my tick marks as evenly spaced out as possible. All right, anyway, negative 1 over 8 plus 2 over 8 is a positive 1 over 8. All right, and then we're just going to keep adding 2's. 1 over 8 plus 2 is 3 pi over 8. 3 plus 2, 5 plus 2. All right, I feel pretty confident about my math, but remember yesterday, this last mark was exactly that because we started at the origin, but now we didn't start at the origin, but you can still check. Guys, think about a number line. If you're at negative 1, how many positive steps would you take to land on 7? How many steps is that? Negative 1 to positive 7? That's 8. That is 8. What's 8 over 8 simplified to? Yeah, so we're good. You can always check your stuff there. All right, let's go ahead and draw the graphs. So we're going to go ahead and draw this shape. Remember, cosine starts at the top. So draw your first dot. Your next increment, it starts decreasing. Your third increment, it drops to the bottom. And then remember, it climbs back up. Also, do not forget to draw your little tails that indicate the wave continues. And then that's how you do it. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at number 2. Number 2 is a sine function. Okay, so for number 2, when I draw this shape, remember sine starts in the middle. It goes up, it goes down, and then it lands in the middle again. So important for you to memorize those because I'm introducing 3 more shapes tomorrow. All right, I know that's a sine function, and guys, since it starts in the middle, sine is always going to be hk. It's always going to start at hk. So let's write pi over 2 and then negative 2. That is for sure where it's going to start. All right, let's go ahead and analyze my a value. Remember, my a value is 3. My k value is negative 2. So I'm going to go ahead and plot that. So remember, -2 is my midline. And then -2 plus the a value of 3 is going to be a +1. And then -2 minus 3 is going to take us down here to a -5. All right, cool. Let's work on our x-axis, which means we need to know the period. The period is going to be 2 pi times the reciprocal of b. So a period is pi radians. Let's go ahead and cut that into fourths. So there's our increments. And then we're kind of in the same dilemma. Look, we need to start at pi over 2. But again, we're increasing by fourths. Remember, you can't go down. I cannot change this 4 into a half, but I can change this half into a fourth. So only in my head, along with a bunch of other stuff in my head, I am only going to consider this pi over 2 is 2 pi over 4 when I count my increments, because it's so much easier to do that in my head. All right, let's go ahead and plot these increments. So remember, we're starting at pi over 2. In our head, we're thinking about 2 pi over 4. There's pi over 2. 2 over 4 plus 1 over 4. 3 pi over 4 plus 1 over 4 is 4 pi over 4. Don't you write that, because that simplifies just a pi. 4 over 4 plus 1/4 is 5 pi over 4. And then the next one's going to be 6 pi over 4, but you're not writing that. Yes, you're going to simplify that. All right. We're ready to get started here. Remember, this is a sine function. It starts in the middle. It's a positive sine function, so it goes up from there, and then it starts climbing down. Then it goes back to where it started. All right. Any questions on that? Y'all, the other ones we are going to factor the b value out. Those were already factored for us, but let's look at it when it's not factored out. Yes?
Is it always going to be 5? Like, you always have to find 5?
5 tick marks, yes. Yeah. Good question. Yes, let's always have 5 spots on the x-axis. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Only 2 more to go. But do not underestimate them, because you got to take out that b value. Notice your b is stuck next to x, and you just can't have that because you have no idea what h is. So if you have something in there, you have to factor it out, because h is not pi. All right. So we're going to take that out. Let me recopy the first part of this. Let me take that 2 out. I'm even going to write the +1 so I don't have to worry about anything. Here we go. That 2 divided by that 2 is a single x. That pi divided by 2 is going to be pi over 2. That's the h value, not just plain pi. All right, let's go ahead and draw the shape of this. Look, it's going to be reflected and it's cosine. So let's draw an upside down horseshoe. And let's figure out where it starts. We know the first value is going to be negative pi over 2. But guys, remember, for cosine, it's not going to be a positive 1 because it starts at the bottom. So it's going to be a positive 1 4 places lower than positive 1. So we're going to write a negative 3 right here. Our A value is always positive, so write a 4, but we can remind ourselves it's upside down because it's negative. The midline is going to be at 1. Let's go ahead and draw these midlines. All right, so positive 1. I'm going to go ahead and draw the amplitude. That's positive 1. 1 plus 4 is 5. And then 1 minus 4 is 3. I'm sorry, 1 minus 4 is negative 3. Yes. Yes, so remember the amplitude is how far it is from the middle. So if I have a 4 here and I'm at a 1, what's 1 plus 4? And then 1 minus 4. So it's still the opposite. Yesterday we had like positive 2 and negative 2, but that was at the origin, so it was easy. But here, just do plus and minus the amplitude. Okay, let's figure out the period so we can start writing our tick marks. Period's going to be 2 pi times the reciprocal of b. Our period's going to be just pi. Our increments are going to be cut in fourths, but again, I'm in different formats here, so in my head, this is going to be 2 pi over 4. In my head. All right, let's go ahead and knock out these tick marks. So we're going to have negative pi over 2. I'm going to scoot that over as much as I can. Now remember, that's like a negative 2 over 4. Negative 2 over 4 plus 1/4 is negative 4th. Negative 4th. Negative 1/4 plus 1/4 is actually 0, so we're going to have 0 pi as one of our tick marks. And then start increasing by 1/4. So this is kind of centered on the y-axis. And it's cosine and it's upside down, so your first dot's going to be at the bottom. Start climbing your way to the top. The very top is on the x-axis. And then climb your way back down. Any questions on that one? We got one more. Yes?
Where do you get the 2 pi from and the 2 pi times 1/2?
So that was from yesterday's. 2 pi is the circumference of a unit circle. And then the b value is a horizontal stretch or a shrink that affects how long it takes to make a wave. A wave could be super skinny or it could be like giant. It depends on the b value. And that's always divided by b, but we multiply by the reciprocals because of all the fractions that we have. All right? All right, so number 4, another reflection. How fun. But we got to take this 2 out first. So y is going to equal negative 5 sine. And then write that 2 on the outside. Guys, what is this? Pi over what? Pi over what? Yes, it is. Good job. Oh, and it's sine. So remember, it's just going to start at HK. But let's draw the shape. Now remember, since it's reflected, it is going to start in the middle, then it's going to go down, then up, then stop in the middle again. So when it's reflected, you go down first. And then it's most certainly going to start at pi over 4, negative 6. And then let's figure out our period, 2 pi times the reciprocal of b. Y'all, the b value is not always 2. I don't know if I said that. If I'm repeating myself, just remember it's not always 2. It just happens to be always 2 in these examples. All right, so our period's pi. Our increments are cut into fourths. Oh, this is pretty straightforward because we have common denominators to move along. Let's go ahead and draw our barriers here. Remember, your midline is at -6. And then remember, we're going to go plus and minus 5. So -6 plus 5 is going to take us to -1. And then -6 minus 5 is -11. All right, let's do our tick marks on the x-axis. Remember, we're going to start with pi over 4. And everything's going to be on the positive side, so I'm going to space out my tick marks the best I can. All right, so 1/4, 2/4, look, 3/4, 4/4, 5/4. Awesome. Let's draw that upside down sine curve. Still going to start in the middle, but remember, you go down, then you climb up. And that's it.